glad to have you here, bro.
Yeah,
Would love to hear about, what it is you do and kind of what your passion is to the space.
Yeah. I mean, CryptoMarket360 is the brand that I represent. And we have, the reason we even started doing what we're doing is because we wanted to see what's going on across the entire landscape of the crypto blockchain industry. It's easy to see an article or to hear something in the news and then think that's what it is.
Yeah.
When in reality, if you looked at everything, it changes your mind. So we send out those briefs and yeah, it's good.
Interesting. So people taking things at face value, they're just seeing one face of it. They're not seeing the 360.
Correct. Yeah, and we're trying to show that 360, which can be challenging to do, but if you can really see 360 every day, it brings out things to your mind that you just normally wouldn't see. It's like, wow.
See, I feel like before we met, which by the way was just so serendipitous, right? We connected on LinkedIn. I reached out to you, as one that is very communicable. You reached back out and we had a conversation in a matter of like a couple of days.
Yep.
And you told me about CryptoMarket360 then, and I actually signed up for your newsletter, and I found so much value in its daily value in your newsletter that I told my team, like, guys, go to this website, put your email in, it's a wrap. I've told my friends that are in crypto, like CryptoMarket360, boom. They would ask me why, right? Like, why? And I found a lot of value in your newsletter and what you guys put together because, I mean, it's free, right? You have like the little excerpts with like what Cogent Law Group and different placements, but the value that you bring is so upfront and immediate and consistent, right? You're showing a lot about what's happening, not just here, but also everywhere.
Yes.
And not just the good, but also the bad and the ugly.
Yep.
And I think that's like super, from a marketing and media standpoint, this is a perspective that we really need, because clients they want to reach globally. They don't just want to reach the country; they want to reach globally.
Right, and that's the thing is because this is, I was telling somebody once, I said, with blockchain technology, what I found, and again, I've been paying attention to Bitcoin since 2011. And I say that intentionally, is I was paying attention to Bitcoin. I wasn't invested, I wasn't involved, I was just paying attention. But the more I paid attention, the more I got involved. I tell everybody, I said, I use this analogy, I said, anybody who's read the Bitcoin white paper or who's ever come close to Bitcoin has never decided to take the blue pill. They've always taken the red pill.
Explain what for people that don't know that are listening to this right now, what is the red pill? Are we talking the Matrix? Are you sending me into the rabbit hole?
That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm sending you to the rabbit hole. And when you take the red pill, right, because you get close enough and you read the Bitcoin white paper, you're like, I want to know more. I want to know really what's coming, right? And all of a sudden you go down the rabbit hole and then a whole new world opens up to you. So when that world opened up to me, I was like, wow. And so as we paid more and more attention, we began to see, and like you said, it's not only the good. I'm not trying to shill a project, right? Mm-hmm. I have no interest in that. I really want to see if there's some substance behind it, and there is. I was telling somebody earlier, the amount of substance is crazy. So that's what I was trying to get to, is that this has went so fast, it's went global, viral, everywhere. I don't care where you are, Bermuda, right?
I was just there, by the way, beautiful. Malta, Gibraltar.
I mean, any place you can name on the globe, someone's working on blockchain or cryptocurrencies. It's crazy.
Bro, so here's the craziest thing, right? I was just in Argentina, and right now, me and my friends were actually just in Argentina, and we came from Chile, by way of Chile.
Wow.
There were so many Venezuelan immigrants that we met along our travels, right? And I'm sure you're very familiar with what's happening in Venezuela. So I was at a gas station, only place that had Wi-Fi in the town that was available. Had to do some work, had to contact my mom, let her know we're alive, right?
Yeah.
I run into a father and a son. They're like completely plugged into this gas station coffee shop. They have like their outlets, right, and everything, and they're just posted up. They've been there for hours, you can tell. They had like 3-4 cups of coffee lined up each. And the father comes up to me, he asks me what I do. And we get to the discussion. He's very nice. He visited the US, used to work at a couple software firms. They're actually building a solution, him and his son, to basically enable the economy of Argentina to further propel itself within the IoT and the AI space.
Wow.
And I told them, have you guys considered blockchain? Have you looked into it? And they said, blockchain is something that's been coming on the radar. They've been hearing about so often now that they have to look into it. There's no other way.
Right. And that's the beauty, right? This is the other thing, and I think I mentioned this maybe in the panel earlier, is that in places where, in considered undeveloped areas, right, where they don't have a huge infrastructure, whatever, but, and someone mentioned this earlier, but they have access to mobile phones or mobile devices, or they have access, they're going to leapfrog a lot of other developed areas because we've been so accustomed and so used to certain things being the way they are, and it goes back to the centralization thing. Exactly. But they get it. They are very entrepreneurial. They're very individual. They're very decentralized, and they get this, and they're just going to hammer away. And for some reason, they get it. It clicks, and they're off and running.
And here's the thing, right? It's what we talked about in the panel. The quality of life is just so much lower than it is ours, and so how do you explain to somebody that lives in this kind of society, living this high up, that your life would increase this much to this level when it's really not that big of a difference where they can see it, whereas opposed to someone that's disintermediated like Frederico and Marcelo, the father and son that I met at the coffee shop, where they know exactly the huge amount of upside value in building this technology forward.
Yeah, a lot of people we talk to, many times these conversations are surrounding the US, right, or the UK, but the reality is when you're talking to someone whose money's being devalued as bad as it is in Venezuela or in Turkey, they understand the power of this technology more than we do because we're so used to, hey, I can pick up my phone, swipe, scan, pay for things. It's super easy, right? Yeah. Andreas Antonopoulos say, we're not giving them bank accounts, we're putting a bank in their pocket. They actually can become a bank now. That blows people's minds, right? It's unbelievable.
That's the Satoshi vision. That was the second you read the white paper, that's exactly what he thought.
That's what he thought. He said, I want it to be peer-to-peer electronic currency. I want people to be able to interact with this system, and they don't need a third party that they have to trust. They can trust each other, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, there are a lot of challenges facing the space, right? And in particular, last Friday, Ethereum just had a global, all hands live conference on those 3 problems, one being the difficulty bomb, and what else. So I'm curious, in your perspective, what do you think are the top challenges that cryptocurrency, in terms of adoption, or rather blockchain, if you will, faces today?
Yeah, the first thing that cryptocurrency faces is going to be UI, right? A good user interface. It's too difficult still to deal with cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. Most people are not that trained on how to do all these nuances. A good friend of mine, he's down in DC, they have Crypto Pets, it's a game, right? Yeah. And he said the problem of adoption for them is that there are too many steps you have to go through just to even play the game, that it requires a certain amount of learning that you have to get to, so it decreases the adoption rate, right? So we need to get some beautiful, Appleize it, so to speak, right? You got to make it beautiful, you got to make it intuitive, you got to make it easy for people to get involved. Right now, you're going to get your anarchists, you're going to get your libertarians, you're going to get those people who sort of get, I want to get away from centralized systems, and they're going to adopt it. But before we have mass adoption on the blockchain side, I think we're going to need that. I think that the world's geopolitical problems is going to create mass adoptions on the cryptocurrency side.
I could not agree more.
It's going to force.
It's going to be the catalyst.
It's going to be the catalyst.
Yeah, and before you know it, the people that are sleeping comfortable in their smart beds, and have their smart coffee being made for them in the morning, they're not going to even see this adoption as much as a country such as my own country, the Philippines, will.
Yeah. Heather Flannery, she mentioned to me earlier, and she said that this is like a tsunami. And I've used this before. I've told a lot of people it's like a tsunami, right? But she says the thing is the tsunami is so big that it's the blue wall has just been faded into the rest of the world. So you don't even notice something. You don't even think a tsunami's coming because you're like, oh, everything looks normal. Yeah. No, you don't understand. That tsunami wave is so high that you can't see the top of it yet, but it's come crashing down soon.
That's so funny. That's exactly like that scene in Interstellar. I don't know if you're.
That's what
I
told you. I told you it was Interstellar.
I like that when they land on that planet and they don't realize it's coming their way.
Right. Yeah. Because it seems like everything is standing still, and there it is. It's like, oh my God, that's a tsunami.
That's cryptocurrency.
Yeah, that's cryptocurrency and that's blockchain. And Ethereum is facing probably, and I'm a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
Because
we have every reason to be, right?
This switch from proof of work to proof of stake. And again, I pray for that team that's development. If they don't get this right, it can wreak havoc on this entire space.
This is a pivotal moment.
Pivotal moment. Yeah. It's a $29 billion blockchain project that if they get this wrong, we're in trouble. Like they say, they could push it into the ice age where that whole chain is frozen and there's no transaction that can happen as they try to make this shift. And the folks from EOS knows it better than anybody how hard it is to try to make a pivot from one to the other. Now, they haven't went proof of work, proof of stake, but they did leave the Ethereum blockchain to go launch their own mainnet. Yeah. Didn't go well, right? Tron didn't go well initially. So when you're trying to make these large of shifts, they need to be very careful. And I think that the teams are being very diligent at trying to make sure they get this right.
Yeah, I would hope so. Again, this is a very pivotal moment, and there is no, I feel like this is going to be a moment where, and I was just talking to my team with this, like this is going to be a moment where we look back and say, like, wow, if we had done this instead, we wouldn't be here. You know, this could be an apocalypse, or it could just be the next step moving forward.
Yeah, and I think it's the next step moving forward. I've seen a lot happen. I remember back when, again, it was just Bitcoin. There were no Litecoin or Ethereums or anything outside of that. And people were talking about Bitcoin and what it can and can't do and blah, blah. I tell people, let's not freeze time, right? We want to freeze time. Let's let this thing continue to evolve. It's an evolutionary process. When the internet first came out, no one said, we're going to build an internet and we want you to be able to do FaceTime. That didn't even come about till a decade after the whole thing was built. So as Ethereum makes its shift, I think that there may be some hiccups, but I think that they're going to adjust quickly. Yeah. They'll adapt, they'll overcome, and we're going to continue to advance as we move forward.
Yeah. And for the security of the enablement of this technology, I'm also optimistic in that fact and matter. So yeah, appreciate your time, man. It was really great to hear about your perspective, your 360 perspective.
The 360 perspective.
Yeah.
Awesome.